Welcome to the Into the Wilderness podcast. This week we're taking a step back from hunting and we're bringing you an adventurer and explorer.
We like to do that now and then. We like to bring you completely different people.
Yeah, we did. Your friend
people.
came on early on in our
I think it was episode 3. We brought my friend Chris, Royal Navy diver, and he was following in Shackleton's footsteps. And if you haven't heard that podcast, go back and listen to it. We also had Laura Bingham on, and she was currently cycling across South America. At the time we actually spoke to her, she's now completed it.
Yeah.
So we bring you Sean Conway.
We do. A lot of people will have seen him in social media in recent weeks and months. He has a really big following and a big presence there. He was also on the news. There's going to be a Discovery show out about him next week, all about his attempt and successful completion of the world's longest triathlon.
Yep. We met Sean only 3 months ago. 3 months ago now, when he was actually on his cycling leg of the world's longest triathlon. He had a GPS, and we found him. He was cycling probably 3 miles away from our house. Yeah. So we went and found him on the GPS, and we had a little sign, "Find your beard," and he stopped and chat. We gave him some sweets and some juice to get him on his way, and we got to see his bamboo bike as well,
which he talks about in this podcast actually. And he agreed he would come on the podcast, and true to his word, he did. And I'm really glad he did, because it's an inspiring story. There's no two ways about it. If you ever want to be inspired to do something that you truly love and get out of the rut that you're in, listen to this podcast, because it'll do it.
Now, for those that don't really know who Sean is, which I think most of you actually will, to be honest, he has done some incredible things throughout his life. Not just the world's longest triathlon. He is also the only person in the world to swim the entire length of Britain.
900 miles in the sea.
Absolutely crazy. He's also climbed up Kilimanjaro in a penguin suit, and also a huge amount of other things which we all talk about in this podcast. We talk about, I think, a huge list of his adventures that he's done.
I think we pretty much tick most of them.
Yeah, we tick most of them.
All the major ones. And he's got a bunch of books which he talks about at the end. If you want to know more about any of the adventures we talk about, that is probably the best place to find it.
Yeah, he has books that he can sign as well.
Yes, he did say that. If he doesn't really do any signings, so if you want a signed book, you have to email him. So just Google his name, you'll find his website, email him, and you can buy a book from him, and he will sign it. He had a big stack in his boat. He was in his boat when we did this podcast, but it was actually one of the clearest lines we've had for a very long time.
Now we're going to talk prizes.
Yes, we are. 2 weeks ago, we said you could win a Caldwell shooting rest. At that point in time, it hadn't arrived yet, but it is here now. So for those people who watch on YouTube, I am going to hold it up. If you give me a second, it's rather heavy.
We give away prizes every 2 weeks on this show, and this is a monster prize. Byron's holding up for the people that are watching on YouTube. It's currently not assembled. But yeah, it's a Caldwell shooting rest. And all you have to do to win this is on the pin post on the Facebook page, tag a friend. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. And the winner will be announced on the next podcast.
Yep. Tag a mate, pin post on Facebook. We decided we were going to run this over 2 shows because it's just such an awesome prize. I don't really want to give it away. In fact, I'm going to go and give it a wee test and assemble it. I just opened it for the first time today. It's pretty awesome, and the prizes keep getting better. So don't miss out, and make sure you enter, because this has to be one of the most impressive prizes we've given away to date, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We're not going to keep you any longer from the interview with Sean. So remember, follow us on Facebook, download this on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, and thank you very much to our sponsors, the Scottish Association for Country Sports. Find them on Facebook as well. Enjoy the show.
Sean, thanks very much for joining us on the show today. I know you've had a really hectic schedule. It's not like you're not a busy man at all. We bumped into you while you were doing the world's largest triathlon just down the road from our office. We came to see you because we saw where you were on your cycle route.
Sign.
Yeah, find your beard. We want to hear a little bit about what you've done prior to what everyone knows you for now, but let's start with that. Let's start with the world's longest triathlon. First of all, why on earth did you decide to do it? And talk us through that journey and the challenges you faced.
World's longest triathlon. Well, firstly, I'm a firm believer that we all in life need to have a really physical goal that we find a little bit out of our reach. I think it's super important. I think without that physical goal in life, I think we get a little bit lazy, and comfort kills ambition and all those sayings that other people have coined over the years, but it's so true. And for years, throughout my 20s, I had no physical goals in life. I never signed up to a marathon. I didn't play any sport. I didn't play football or anything. And I was miserable for it. So, over the last few years, I've been doing various challenges, quite a lot in the UK. And I was just looking for the next big thing, and over the last sort of 5-6 years, I swam, cycled, and ran Land's End to John O'Groats. But they're all individual challenges, and there was years of gaps between them. And the next stage for me was to combine swimming, cycling, and running, my three favorite disciplines, in one epic, long triathlon, all back to back. And, that's how I kind of came up with the idea, really. And truthfully, if I'm honest, the first thing I did is I looked at other countries around the world, like Australia, America, India, various things. And there's something just drew me back to Britain. I genuinely believe it's the best island in the world. There's so much cool stuff going on here. And that was it, really. I just kind of thought of following the coastline.
It was... I've pretty much followed it through all of your social media that you were doing when you had the opportunity to do it while you're doing the triathlon. I mean, it's the distances are quite hard to really get to grips with if you have never walked or run or swam any great distances yourself. So just try and put that in perspective for people who maybe don't even know the normal distances for a triathlon.
Including me, actually. I've never done a triathlon. What is a triathlon? I genuinely don't know. I know an Ironman.
I think it's 1,500 meter swim. I'm sure it's a 1,500 meter swim.
I did one in Abu Dhabi, and it was 1,500 meter swim, and then I think it was a 50. It was kind of a shorter one, so it was a 50k cycle and then a 20k run. I think that's what I did. So not even half a day of what you were doing.
Yeah. So as I said, I genuinely have never done a triathlon or an Ironman or anything. But mine was 3,200 mile bike ride, 820 mile run, I think, in the end, and 115 mile swim. So I think someone worked out that it's about 30 times or 25 times an Ironman in distance. So, but all in one go. It's not like I did 25 Ironmans. I did just 25 times the distance, really.
It's one thing that I found quite incredible is that you did that, but you did it totally unsupported. I mean, how on earth did you manage that?
Yeah, it was, doing the unsupported thing is kind of important for me from a sort of to inspire other people that they can do it too. I think if I'd done it with a massive van and support crew and people in high-vis jackets and people handing me food, I think straight away 80% of the people watching it would have gone, well, that's brilliant, but actually there's no way I can convince 4 of my mates to quit work for 3 months and drive a van following me, because it's just not many people have access to that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas everyone has access to go and save a bit of money, buy a rubbish bike, get some trainers, get a backpack, and go off and do these things. And that's kind of the philosophy around doing it self-supported, and also it does mean you can live the adventure you want to live. And we're all human, and when you have a support crew who are following you and they're tired and they want to stop, you're naturally going to have some sort of middle ground of where you change your adventure. So being self-supported was important for me to have the adventure I wanted to have, and also to hopefully inspire other people that actually they can just go to their shed and go off and do it too.
I wanted to talk about your bike, because it wasn't actually a normal bike that you took. It was custom made for you, and it wasn't made out of conventional materials that you would probably traditionally get in a bike.
So basically, I didn't want to do it on a £10,000 race bike, which, again, not many people have the opportunity to sort of spend that sort of money on a bike. I wanted to do it on a bike that really was potentially not suitable at all. So I decided and landed up being not suitable at all. I went for a bamboo bike, and firstly, mainly because I saw a picture of one on the internet and I fell in love with it. I was like, that is awesome, I want one. But actually, it was also super sustainable. I was supporting a charity in Vietnam, getting unemployed women, mothers into work, and it all just kind of worked for me. It just showed that you don't need the best kit in the world to do something. Annoyingly, it did make me take a week longer on the cycle because of various things, which you'll find out when you watch the show. And but she had character, Matilda and I. We had some good adventures together, but by the end, it was very much a love-hate relationship.
We can attest to the fact it was real bamboo because we saw it with our own eyes.
Now you're cycling. I felt very, very sorry for you. We were sitting in the office, and I could see you making up the west coast of Scotland, and I was looking out of our office window, and it was snowing heavily. It shouldn't have actually been snowing that time of year. I felt very, very sorry for you.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, when you plan these adventures, you look at everything. You look at weather, terrain, food availability, all these sort of things, where you're going to camp, how you're going to camp. And honestly, when I thought April, I'll be getting good weather, so I packed lightweight sleeping bag, lightweight kit, didn't take any thermals or anything. And then as most people know, we had that freak week of bad weather pretty much all over the country. I think it even snowed in London in April, and I just wasn't prepared, and I was hit with 70-mile-an-hour headwinds. I actually got blown off my bike at one point, and didn't have the clothes. I actually landed up going into a hardware store and buying gardening gloves and some gardening over trousers just to stop the sleet, because it was like shotgun pellets. There was hailstones sort of shotgun pellet size just hitting me in the face. I remember cycling along with my hand like this, just trying to look through the gap. Just so that I wouldn't sort of get hit in the
your
face.
only protection, the beard. That was it.
Yeah, it was good. It's just the eyes,
Now, I want to talk a little bit about swimming. Me and Byron are both swimmers. I've done a bit of open water. And for the people that don't know, you were towing a sled to be fully unsupported. How was that in the water? It must have been horrendous.
Yeah, horrendous.
Awful. Yeah, awful. Yeah, the self-supported swim idea wasn't very clever at all, if I'm honest. I immediately regretted it after the first 100 meters. It was just so slow. I had certain time. I always like to have a time goal in my adventures. Otherwise, I personally feel it becomes a little bit of a holiday. If you're just going to take a year to do it. So I wanted to push it as hard as I could. And, I thought, right, hopefully I can do the swim in about, 10, 12 days probably, actually. But then within the first day, I realized that actually that was going to be much longer, which was really depressing at the end of being, out for 65 days already, to then realize I was probably going to swim for another 5 to 7 days longer than I was hoping in that freezing water. The water doesn't really warm up until sort of September, really. So that was tough, because it's about 15 kgs, I think, the whole thing in the end, which you've got to drag through the water. And every time a wave came through, it would just, stop dead, and I'd have to keep on going, So you're making good pace. One wave comes through, I remember the bits where it was shallow enough for me to see the ground, I was literally going backwards. Not far, probably only a few centimeters.
But it's enough.
But nothing more depressing than, making a meter and then going back a few centimeters and then having to build up that momentum. As you know, momentum counts for a lot. It's just getting things moving at the beginning is the effort. So it was tough. That.
What kind of distances were you doing each day in the water?
Very tidal. When the tide was good, I think I managed 11 or 12 miles in my biggest sort of morning session, and probably 7 or 8 in the evening. When the tide's good, if the tide was bad or the wind picked up, I was sort of only pushing about 5, 6 miles in each tidal session. So you got about 3 or 4 hours of maximum tide to swim in.
And what were you doing for food and water during that time?
Yeah, I was kind of just going to shore, because part of my logistics was swimming along the south coast, which is all beaches, so you can't go to shore. So my raft was too heavy, so about a week in, I had to go and buy one of those granddad trolleys, granddad pull behind them. Took the bag off, gave it to charity, and then tied this bloody trolley to the raft. So actually, once I got to shore, I could drag.
Oh, you could trolley it back.
You could drag the trolley up and down the beach, to go and get food, and yeah, I looked really weird.
I'm just picturing here, some kid, he's making his sandcastle, and his mom and dad are there with the little beach chairs. Out comes this man with this mane and a huge beard with a trolley and a little raft.
I know. We had 13 reports to the Coast Guard about someone in the water that they thought may have been an illegal immigrant. Some woman actually ran to the beach. I came ashore at like 6 a.m. when the tide finished. I did an early session from sort of 4 until it was about 6:30, I guess. And it was pouring with rain, and so the Discovery Channel film boat, it was this massive boat which looked like a police boat, like the ones you see that are going out to rescue sort of immigrants trying to cross the waters, And then on the shore with more cameramen filming me coming out the water. And this woman, really perturbed, came up to me with her umbrella and said, "What are you doing here?" I was like, getting some breakfast, hopefully. And she goes, oh, I thought you were an illegal immigrant, and that was the police boat.
Chasing you on shore.
This was the media sort of capturing the whole thing. And I'm like, man, if someone swam here from France by themselves, like, just put them in the Olympics or something,
Yeah, they deserve to be here.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, yeah, so it was quite funny.
Now, 2 more things about your swim. One, you crossed some of the busiest harbours in the world. I've sailed out of both of the harbours that were terrifying, I imagine, that you swam across.
Yeah, so I don't want to mislead people here. So swimming through the Solent, legally by law, you have to have a safety boat to look after you at some point. So I arranged for a boat just to sort of be around because, as you say, it's the biggest shipping lanes in the world. For one of those big cruise liners to just put on the brakes and then change direction probably costs thousands and thousands of pounds in fuel, So you don't want to be, pissing off one of those cruise liners. So, you do have to have a safety boat. So, but they weren't a support boat at all. They didn't do anything except just be there in case something went wrong.
Make sure you don't get run over.
Yeah, exactly. And they communicated as well because obviously I'm in the water, I can't communicate with harbour masters. When you're crossing shipping lanes and channels in and out, you should always be phoning the harbour master and just telling them what you're doing. And, so that's what I did. It was quite nerve-wracking though. So I had to sort of phone the harbour master at Portsmouth. And he was like, right, we've got a window now. You got to go now. But on the other side of Portsmouth, there's nothing. And I really needed the toilet. So I was like, I can't go now. And he said, if it's not now, it's in like 8 hours time. And then I was just like, man, I'm going to die. I need breakfast. I need the loo. So I actually had to sit out. And I'd missed my gap because by the time they was faffing, I'd missed my opportunity. And this big cruise liner came past. And so I had to wait like another 7 hours before the tide was good again. And yeah, it was the most frantic sort of 20 minutes of my life. And there was even a big warship came past me, and all the Navy crew were on the back, sort of standing on the edge, looking at this crazy guy. And apparently, I'm only the second person in history to have swum across Portsmouth Harbour, and I now know why. It's just pretty busy.
I do know someone that drifted out of Portsmouth Harbour, not due to any, there wasn't planned.
After a night out.
After a night out, but. Not exactly illegal. He was in the Navy as well, so I mean,
he had some survival skills.
My last question about swimming: you caught a fish.
I was going to ask him about this. Yeah.
So, in old people in old age homes, they have that one story that they repeat to everyone. My gran
you wanted a story.
My gran had a story about how she infiltrated the Chinese mafia in London in the 60s. I don't know how true it was, but that was her story, right? And it was cool, and she told it every time I went to see her. My story is going to be this time where, as a joke, I said, I wonder if I tie some fishing line around me and swim, can I catch a fish? And I put it out on social media, and everyone was like, not a chance, mate, unless you have a 100-meter line, blah, blah, blah. There's all these reasons. But basically, the general vibe was, it's never going to happen. And truthfully, I kind of believed it. I was like, yeah, I mean, there's no fish is going to come close enough to me. Anyway, I put the line out and swam. I kind of forgot about it, and then 4 hours later, I came to shore, completely forgotten, turned around to pull Rafty up, and then there was a fish on the end just flapping away. I was like, no way! That was a massive mackerel. I say massive, for a mackerel, it was quite big. And I couldn't believe it. I actually caught a blooming fish while swimming. I mean, how many people have done that? I think that is my claim to fame. I think.
Forget about the world's longest triathlon.
Yeah.
I caught a fish.
Yeah, all that stuff, cycling around the world, none of that jazz matters, man. I'm going to be the dude who caught the fish while swimming.
You cooked it, didn't you?
I ate it raw. Yeah,
you ate it raw. I must have missed that one.
I ate it right there. There's nothing better than having like sushi within 10 minutes of sort of catching it. Really.
How did your body hold up? Because it doesn't matter how you stack it up. That is a colossal amount of punishment to put your body through. I mean, what was your training before, and then how did your body hold up during?
So, training for something that long, that was going to take nearly 3 months, which is multidiscipline, is almost impossible. Whatever swim training I did before, within 2 months of being on the bike and running, I would have lost it. And the same with running. And I kind of only find my groove after about 3 weeks, really, generally. And then each section was only about 4 weeks long. So actually, by the time I just found my groove on cycling, I had to change to running. But obviously now I've got all cycle muscles, so my quads were quite big. I had no sort of impact training that you need. So you got collagen and tendons and ligaments, all that impact, those impact hard tissue muscles. They take months to sort of get strong, which is why people get better at ultra running later in life. Like Mimi Anderson ran Land's End John O'Groats in 12 days. She was 50 years old. So you get better at the long stuff because you've had time to train those hard tissue, and I didn't have that. So obviously straight away I got injured on the run, which was expected really, plus carrying everything on my back. And then by the time I got to the swim, I was so fatigued, so tired. Arms had done nothing except pick up a pint, and to have literally in 2 months. So, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I don't know what I would have done really. I probably would have done a few more push-ups and pull-ups along the way. I did try that, but I was just kind of like winging it really, which was a regret, because if I'd maybe been a little bit more proactive in looking after my body, both throughout the adventures, I probably would have done it a week quicker, which was I was kind of hoping to do it a week quicker, but actually, weather and fatigue kind of held me back, I think.
Well, you looked in incredible shape by the time you finished.
Well, swimming does that for you. Swimming gives you that appearance of being fit, because you get your big shoulder muscles and your pecs sort of get a bit bigger, and you have no body fat, so you lose all your body fat. So all of a sudden I was like, man, I'm 35 years old. I got a 6-pack. I mean, that's never going to happen again. Like, this is me. Take a picture now. Send it to my grandkids one day. So, swimming is quite good for recovery and quite good for sort of to look physically strong. But actually, if you'd put me in the gym or anything, I would have been pretty weak. I would have had maybe good, strong shoulders by the end, and my core would have been okay. But, because I'd not run or anything, everything was kind of getting just really tired. It was only actually probably 3 weeks after I finished everything that I actually felt really strong, because obviously now I'd been eating properly when I got home, recovered properly, and now I'm pretty actually I'm quite fit now. Even now my resting heart rate is below 50, so I'm quite happy about
that. It didn't take you very long to get back on the bike once you finished it. I saw you just spent 2 days cycling. Was it 200 miles and 3 hours
24
sleep?
hours, yeah. I did my house down to Cornwall in 24 hours. My girlfriend lives down in Cornwall, and I was I had a photo shoot in Bristol, which I was going to drive to and then go to Cornwall, and the photo shoot got cancelled. So I all of a sudden had this afternoon free, and I was like, well, if I just jump on the bike, let's see how long it'll take me to get there. And it was 250 miles. It took me 24 hours and 15 minutes, which was really annoying because my mum phoned me and I sat on the side of the road for 15 minutes having a chat. And so didn't get my 24 hours, so I'm going to have to do that. But you know what? So actually, although I was really fatigued and a bit weak, swimming was good for me at the end of running and cycling 3,200 miles, running 800 miles. Swimming was quite good for that. So actually, I kind of felt I recovered a little bit and was able to get back on the bike and actually push some decent mileage. So, and also my next adventure is on the bike in 5 weeks' time, but it's fully under the radar, this one. I'm not telling anyone about it.
So that's all we're getting.
I'm under a different name, everything. So I'm not doing it social media. I'm doing this one just for the love of adventure.
Is
the
it
love
in
of
this
being
country?
outdoors.
Is it in this country?
It is not in this country, no.
Okay.
People might work it out. But it's kind of, I just want to do this for the love of being outdoors.
You won't have a GPS strapped to you this time.
What?
I won't give too much away.
Okay, fair enough. What was your interaction with people like while you're doing? You've got a really big following on social media. Whenever you put something up, you get a shed load of likes, ton of comments.
People trying to find your trainers.
Yeah.
No, they went pretty quickly.
Yeah, they did.
Tony Hawk inspired me. He would go and leave skateboards around sort of deprived areas of where, all over America, with a little note saying, happy skating or whatever. And I was going to sort of give these shoes to a charity shop when because each pair of shoes probably lasts about 300 miles, really, maybe 400 on the road. So I was going through 3 pairs of trainers, and the first pair I actually did, I just went and changed them and gave them to a charity shop. And then the second pair, I thought, well, maybe someone could actually get some use out of these, because they probably still had another 100, 150 miles in them. So yeah, I just left them on the side of the road, tweeted about it, and literally 10 minutes later they were gone. And the guy he went on his bike, picked them up, and came and found me and said, "Thanks, mate." So yeah, as I've never done a triathlon, I've never done a marathon, as in the event. I've done the distance, but I've never done the event. And people tell me that the crowd gets you that last sort of 5 miles or the end. The crowd on the side waving, cheering, boost you along. I don't have that crowd physically next to the road, so social media is my crowd. And for all the faults that social media has, I think people spend too much time on it potentially. There's a certain element of falseness about the way that people portray themselves, and all that jazz. You take all that stuff away, I think social media is a fantastic tool to share experiences that you're up to. And I'm seeing a huge shift, and there's a really good book by a guy called James Warman. It's called Stuffication, and it's about, long story short, about how, as mammals, we need feelings of importance. Like, gorillas beat their chest, peacocks grow feathers they don't need. It's just to feel important in society, right? And for hundreds of years now, or at least certainly the last 100, we've got that feeling by buying stuff. You buy a bigger car and everyone goes, "Ooh, you're important." You buy a bigger house, you buy fancy clothes, blah, blah, blah. Whereas actually with social media, I think, and James Warman sort of suggests that there's a shift now from people going from materialism based feelings of importance to experience based feelings of importance. And I think social media is really important for that, because all of a sudden the guy who goes, "Look, I ran a marathon," will get way more likes than the guy who goes, "Look, I just spent $5,000 on a handbag."
Yeah.
Or XYZ. And so I think people are getting that. Obviously there's the whole negative side to it, where it's going really too far off, where people are craving that attention online. And then that's a whole different story, and I don't want to get into that. But certainly I think people are being more intelligent with their holidays now. I think people are being more intelligent with their savings. They're not going and buying that expensive, pair of shoes that they're going to climb Kilimanjaro, for example. And I think it's a super exciting time in the world, and I think social media is down to that. I'm hoping, there's people like Alistair Humphreys, Dave Conway, Kenton Cool, Sophie Radcliffe. God, there's so many. Anna McNuff, Laura Kennington. All these people are doing all these adventures online and sharing it. It's making people like me go, "Wow, that's amazing!" Mark Beaumont cycling the length of Africa, Mike Hall, Juliana Bering. Geez, the list. Lael Wilcox just won the Trans-America bike race. It's a girl beating all the blokes and everything, and it's just incredible. And social media is a great way of finding out those sort of stories and actually getting inspired from them. So I love it. I love sharing my stuff, and if one person go off and sign up for a marathon that they didn't think they could do, then it makes me feel better.
Now, something else you love. Land Rovers.
Yes, I'd almost forgotten about that.
We want to talk about Land Rovers because we love them as well. Yeah. We've got a Defender, and you're a Defender man as well.
I bought another Defender yesterday.
No, you're joking.
Literally bought a Defender yesterday from. So I've been in love with there's a company up in Yorkshire called Twisted
I know
Defenders.
Twisted. Yep.
They sort of really, you can go in there and just whatever you've got in your brain, you make them do for you. So I bought a standard sort of fairly newer Defender, which I'm going to create with them this ultimate sort of adventure machine for myself, and it's going to have a bit of a nod to the old Camel Trophy Defenders from back in the day. So it's going to be a similar color, and it's going to have everything I need. You know, I need a bed in the back, I need a place to put my bicycle, I need space on the roof, all these sort of things. So I'm working with them. I'm so excited, man. Literally yesterday, I was just like a kid in a candy store going, "Oh, I could have. What should I do? What should I do?" And so watch your space. I'm doing the build with them over the next sort of 3 months. Getting my ultimate sort of adventure machine together, which I'm going to use, and I think I will for the rest of my life. You know, this is going to be the last car I ever buy.
I love those.
Apart from Series 1.
Well, exactly. The last new car I'll ever buy. Yeah.
I'm working.
I got a Series 3 as well, which I just blew the engine on last week. So that's in the garage. So I've got 3 Land Rovers, but only one is working at the moment.
Well, irrespective or anything else, I think the fact that you're a Land Rover man, makes you a good bloke in my books.
I love it, man. I had them from when I was a kid. I remember Dad driving around with the old ones had the steering wheel, which is freaking massive. Through the African wilderness, bouncing up and down. You know, so they're kind of in my blood, Land Rovers. So yeah, I do love them.
I worked backwards. I managed to buy one of the very last of the TD5 engines in the 110.
Great, man. Yeah.
And it's got like 50,000 on the clock, and that's my version of your new one. That's for the rest of my life.
I was thinking about actually buying the TD5 instead, because actually they're a little bit more economical, and if you get it remapped, the Twisted guys will remap it for you. Go on YouTube and look at a remapped TD5. You can do like power slides, which is obviously not what you want to do with a TD5. But the problem with the TD5 is with EU emissions and stuff, they had to dull the engine right down.
They did, yeah.
So actually, you can get a bit working better off road and all that sort of thing if it's remapped, and they actually sound a bit cooler. I think the TD5 is the best sounding.
It's a pretty awesome car. To be honest, it is. I love mine anyway. Sometimes my girlfriend gets a little upset because she's convinced I love the Land Rover more than her, but it's not true.
Come to bed, I'm like, I'm fine in the back. My happy place is sleeping in the back of my Land Rover, man. I reckon I sleep at the minute probably like almost 50-50 between my Land Rover and my boat, to be honest, or camping, and then that's the other bit. But yeah, no, I love it. When people don't sort of come up and knock on the window.
What is the red Land Rover that we see all the time on your social media? What's the spec of that? This is the last bit of Land Rover chat, because I know there'll be some people who don't care less about it. But I want to know.
Now hates Land Rovers. All the Toyota fans are like, I'm done. It's a 300 TDI. Okay. It's 20 years old. It's done 100. The Speedo says 191,000, but I'm thinking it's way over 200.
Has it stopped working, the Speedo?
Yeah, the Speedo stopped working many times. But it's got a bed in the back. I could put my bike straight in without taking the wheels off. It's got shelves, which pretty much, if I literally decide right now, I can just close my laptop, get my keys, go to my car, and in there is everything: my hiking boots, my tent, my bike. I got a kayak mount on the roof, everything, man. I've got a little portable shower. You need a bucket, but what you do, a little tip, is it's a bit harder on the new engines because they got the cover, but certainly if you take the cover off your TD5, mate, get a metal bucket, fill it with water, turn the engine on, leave it on the engine for about half an hour with the bonnet open. You get hot water. There we go. There's your warm shower.
I got rid of the plastic cover ages ago because you hear it better.
Yeah. Exactly.
Why do you want to dampen the noise?
Why would you want to dampen the noise?
Exactly. You want to hear when you've run out of oil.
Now, you want to step backwards now?
Yeah, I want to go backwards. Now, I was looking at some of the things.
Before we do this, can we do early life?
Yeah, we can do. Early life.
Can we just give us a snippet of your early life before you started your first adventure?
And what made you?
Yeah, and move it because you're from Zambia,
Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Sorry. Before you moved here. So I'd like to know a little bit about that before we talk about your early adventures that some people might not know about.
So, I grew up in the colonies in Africa. So I had a British family who moved over to Africa. And, African life was pretty damn adventurous. My dad's a conservationist. He's a rhino and elephant conservationist. So for years, I just grew up in the bush looking after rhinos and elephants, and it was amazing. There's nothing more that fuels your imagination than having to throw sticks at an elephant to chase it out the garden because it's drinking all the water out your little paddling pool, which happened many times. And so I think that probably fueled my adventurous spirit growing up in the bush. And then, long, boring story, but Zimbabwe didn't work out, obviously, for various reasons. Moved back to England, and I still had that adventurous spirit, but I kind of forgot to acknowledge it. I think I lied to myself, and lied about what makes me happy or what's important in life and what my true goals should be and all that sort of thing. And although I was into photography, I thought I was going to travel the world with it, but actually landed up not, and was just miserable. So sort of kind of sold my business for £1 in 2011.
Your photography business?
My photography business for £1, yeah. I think I have that £1. Hold on.
You've kept it?
Here somewhere. Mate, I went £4 on the frame to frame the pound.
So the frame's worth more than the pound. Oh, wow. Tremendous.
So I sold it to my business partner who's from Jersey. And obviously he gave me a Jersey pound note. And there it is.
And that was it. And then started the rest of your life.
That was it, man. But, I was 30 years old. I have no A-levels. I have no university education. Photography was a hobby I got good at, and loved it for many years, but made bad decisions, said yes to the wrong clients, did boring work that didn't inspire me but paid well. So imagine being 30 years old with actually, because the frame was £4, I was minus £3 to my name, pretty much from day one. What do you do? I was unemployable, pretty much unemployable. I had no skills really. The only thing I could have probably done was work in a photo studio or a photo lab developing prints, but they were sort of becoming scarce because of digital. And I didn't want to do photography anyway, so I sort of stepped back and thought, what were my original goals in life? And they were to travel the world, and I wanted to travel the world, be outside, explore places. And I was hoping photography, but the camera was going to be my passport to do that. But I made bad decisions, so it landed up obviously not being that. So I thought, well, I still want to travel the world. I still want to be outdoors. I still want to, do that. What else can I do in life that'll allow me to do that? So I then thought, well, if I do some sort of adventure racing, I didn't want to just be a traveler and just go sort of on holiday type adventures. Yeah. I wanted to push myself physically and mentally. I think that gave me extra purpose in life personally. And so that's why I thought of adventure racing, and it got me into this new world of trying to race, doing races and long distance endurance adventures, which has now been my new ticket to get me to the same place, and you climb up a mountain and sometimes you hit a bit of ice and you slide back down. I tried to climb up that ice, in photography without crampons for years and years and years. And I just eventually realized I was so miserable. But actually, all I needed to do was walk around to the other side of the mountain where there was a different slope and a different path, which was just as exciting and was still getting me to the same point, right? So that's a little bit of my philosophy, I guess, is, have your goal and like really dig deep into what that goal is and why you want to do it. Initially I thought photography was just my goal, to be a working photographer, but that was aiming way too low. I wanted to work for National Geographic, for many years, and eventually when I gave up my business, I was complaining, I didn't get all those jobs for National Geographic. My friend was like, oh, so how many did you apply for? And I was like, 0. I didn't apply for one. And then it was kind of such an obvious thing. I was like, man, you are so right. I mean, how can I be complaining about something that I've never even tried to go and get? It was a really, really important life lesson, So I then dug deep and I was like, what do I want to do with my time on this planet? I've only got so many years here. I wanted to travel. I wanted to meet cool people. I wanted to spend it outdoors. I didn't want to spend it sitting at a desk. What can I do in life that'll give me that? And photography wasn't it. So I thought adventure racing will be it. And that's kind of my path now, and it's, you know, the best decision I ever made, really, this pound. So I keep it with me the whole time as a reminder.
That's absolutely tremendous. It's a big thing we always say to people now is you embrace what you love to do. Because if you're really good at something, because you're passionate about it, you will find a way. And if I could go back and give myself advice when I was younger, I'd say the same thing. So don't do what you think you should do. Do what you love.
Yeah, Alan Watts, there's a really famous speech he did online. Search Alan Watts. It's "What would you do if money was no object?" I still listen to it probably once every couple of months whenever I'm feeling, you know, if the weather's a bit rubbish and I don't want to get on the bike.
I know that speech. It's really good. It is, really good.
It's a great speech, and it kind of gives me sort of new incentive and perspective. So yeah, everyone, Alan Watts, check that out. And cheese rolling on YouTube. Those are two things you should check out later.
I've seen cheese rolling, and you've done it.
I came second by half a meter. I was gutted.
Right, I've got a list here, kind of everything you've done up to now. So I just want to cover a few points. There's a few in particular that I'm quite intrigued in. So you sold your business for £1. You went straight into cycling the UK in 2008.
Actually, the cycling came before that.
Did it?
So that was the only thing I'd ever done pre that and the cheese rolling, pre selling my business, and it was one of the sort of incentives into my new life. I remember I sold my business. I was sitting at home, 30 years old, miserable, broke, didn't know what to do. And I remember thinking, right, when were you last happiest, Sean? When were you last really, really happy? And I remember it was cycling Landsentje on a Groats, which I was so rubbish at cycling. It took me 25 days. You know, I've met people in their 70s who do it in 14 days, you know. So I was really rubbish. But it was that, you know, raising money for charity, pushing myself, meeting people, exploring, you know, all those sort of things, you know, and then going and talking at school. I think I did 2 talks after that one, to friends, in a pub and at a school. And I remember thinking that was the last time I was truly happy. So that was cycling Landsentje Groats. Then I sold my business in 2011, and then I guess you've got more on your list.
And then 2011, you climbed Kilimanjaro in a penguin suit.
Yes.
Why on earth, please?
So, if you tell 3 people your idea, I believe it's set in stone, and you can't go back on yourself. And me and 6 of my mates, so 7 of us, all going to do it as a bit of a charity fun event. And we're in the pub, you know, just chatting about, you know, are we all going to catch the same flight? Some people were going to fly to Kenya and do the bus, to Nairobi and do the bus instead. And we were all having these all ideas. And then I sort of said, well, because we're raising money for charity, how cool would it be if we all dressed up in fancy dress in the same outfit and you know, went up, and I think we'd raise more money for charity because we're raising money for the African Wildlife Fund. And the penguin suit kind of came into chat somehow. And I thought it would be brilliant. You know, imagine 7 penguins waddling up Kilimanjaro. And I'm a bit hazy now because we were a few ales in, but I'm convinced we all agreed that we were going to do that. I'm super convinced that actually I walked out that pub and it was done deal. Right, we were all going to wear penguin suits.
Ordering a suit.
Anyway, I ordered mine. I rocked up in Tanzania with my penguin suit, and they were like, we were only joking, Sean. I was like, what? I've told everyone. I've told 3 people. So I nearly backed out. I nearly thought, well, is this a bit patronizing to people who've really trained hard? It's a difficult hike, you know. It's the world's highest freestanding mountain. You know, the 6,000 meters is pretty high for altitude sickness and things like that. And I didn't want to devalue other people's attempts. So I nearly pulled out. But then I thought, you know what? I said I was going to do it. I'm raising money for charity. I've got to stick with it. And actually had the complete polar opposite effect. People weren't annoyed with me. They were actually kind of like, damn it, if a penguin can bloody do it, I can do it. So, you know, as I was waddling past, people were like, I've got to catch him now. And it actually landed up being a wonderful experience, and managed to, you know, raise money for charity and have a great adventure at the same time.
And then 2012, you moved on to 3 of the highest peaks: Scotland, England, Wales, and you cycle between them 430 miles in 60 hours. That is pretty fast.
Yeah. So again, just fancied another challenge. You know, again, just trying to push myself, and I love doing stuff in Britain, as everyone knows. Wanted to do the 3 peaks. couldn't find a mate to sort of drive the 24-hour thing, but I had a mate who had the weekend off, who could just faff around. It's a bit easier drive. And so teamed up with my friend Sophie, and just had a bash and did it just about.
And I'm assuming later in that year you start your cycle of the world.
They actually were the other way around. I did that one before the Round the World. Sorry, I did it after Round the World. Yeah, no, Round the World was my first sort of proper big sort of, right, this is my new life. I need to do something. I can't afford travel. I want to do adventure racing. Like any sportsman, every sportsman on the planet will have a sponsor. We've all heard about Ryan Lochte losing all four of his
sponsors. We were just talking about it this morning. Earlier,
what a silly boy. So I thought, this is a viable option. Being a sports person, attracting sponsors who will fund your training and your kit. It's a thing which thousands and thousands of people do. All my Olympian friends do it. Everyone in the Tour de France, look at Team Sky, they're all sponsored. So actually, this whole new idea in my mind, I thought, well, I can do racing, adventure racing, become an athlete of some sort. And
Sean was using the inverted commas there for the people who only listening.
I'm not a real one. I'm like a non-professional athlete. That's kind of what I call it. So it opened my world up into this new option of existing on this planet, which is, think of an idea, and then try and get sponsored to fund it. Back then it was heavily relied on getting some sort of publicity out of it. Mm-hmm. Now it's a little bit different. There might be, it's probably a little bit harder. There's more competition, but there's more ways of trying to get sponsors to get on board with your idea. With social media, with content creation, and XYZ. So, a lot more people are able to go off and do these things and live this type of lifestyle than before, when it was, unless you got magazine space or newspaper articles before, sponsors weren't keen. Whereas now you can actually package it up a little bit differently. So that was it. The Round the World cycle was my first thing, and huge thank you to Neil Hutchinson who sponsored me for that, and his company, and attempted to cycle around the world, basically. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about your books at the end, but there is actually, you've written a book about that experience. So if anyone wants to hear more about it, then read the book.
It's available. It's called Cycling the Earth. It is available on Amazon. I think I have loads of copies in my bedroom because no one's buying them. I keep a bunch for signed. If anyone wants signed copies, they can email me.
Well, there you go.
Because I don't really do signings, so I just want to have that.
So if anyone wants a signed copy, then
got to email Sean,
and he can.
I was just thinking after your little chat there about how you managed to make this a way of life, and you're talking about the sponsorships and that. I think after this podcast goes out and we do the social media bit, there might be more competition, because I can just imagine all these people thinking, hang on, I can do that too, which of course is the point, is you want to encourage people to embrace it.
Historically, the adventure exploration world has been limited to a pretty certain corner of society. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what I'm talking about here. People potentially with big financial backing, people of a certain education, blah, 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 right? Now, that hasn't been very inspiring for the other 95% of the population who are, living in a part of the world where they just didn't have those role models. Whereas now, with social media, with people, with content becoming more valuable online, people are able to film pretty high-end stuff and take pretty high-end photography with their phones nowadays, which all of a sudden has meant, people like me living in the Midlands on a boat can actually, be if you're good at it, and I'd like to think I've become quite good at sort of endurance adventuring, can actually find a way of making a living from it. You can self-publish books. You don't have to have a massive publisher behind you to get a book out there. You can talk at schools, and people people have budgets for getting people, speakers in. So actually, it's the sort of exploration adventure world has shifted, and that's through social media and all that sort of thing, from being sort of only available to a certain sort of corner of society 100 years ago to being pretty much available to anyone who's willing to make the sacrifices. Because there are, I lived with my mum in a 1-bedroom flat on the pull-out sofa for a couple of years while I was scrounging money around. Yeah, even Ranulph Fiennes, I think he spent something like 8 years working in a pub trying to fund one of his polar pole-to-pole without a flight thing back in the day. 8 years slogging away saving. I think he had 1,500 sponsors or something ridiculous. Well, certainly over 1,000. Back then. And so there are sacrifices, and everyone just sees the glossy bits. But it is an option if you want it. If you want to, spend most of your life tired, miserable, cold, wet, and hungry, then being an adventurer is just
the way to go.
They don't tell you that at school, do they?
No.
Yeah.
It's not part of the careers advice.
No, it's not. Now, me and Byron actually watched this on YouTube the other day. You're swimming the length of Britain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I think
grueling.
Besides the fish story, that one will be probably one of my biggest achievements. This longest triathlon was physically up there, but with cycling and running, and I'd done a big swim before, it was just physical and mental. There was no surprises. Whereas doing a 900-mile sea swim that no one had even attempted, in the history of mankind, which is surprising because my mate Dave Conway skateboarded Land's End to John O'Groats. There's a guy who hit a golf ball. There's a woman last November pushed Rosie May, I think her name, pushed a bed from Land's End John O'Groats. I hope she slept in it every night. That'd be amazing. I bet she did. So the fact that no one had even attempted to swim it was quite interesting. But obviously came with the challenges of you had no one to ask for advice. You want to climb Everest today, there's tons of books and people you can ask. You want to go to the South Pole, you want to go to the North Pole, you want to row the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian. You've got many people to ask when you're trying to do one of the world's longest sea swims. There's no one really to ask what the deal is, and that was just really, really difficult. And I'm not really a good swimmer as well.
The one part which I did feel very sorry for you, because I can empathize with you massively, is putting on a wetsuit, because I've spent a lot of time in wetsuits, and it is one of the most miserable things.
Especially so with cold water swimming, the biggest trick is to get warm before you get in the water. So run up and down the beach, do whatever to get warm, and then you get in the water and you stay warm. Where it's harder to warm up in the water, right? Now, I was on a tiny little boat. By the end, nighttime temperatures were probably 1 or 2 degrees, which means the wetsuit is 1 or 2 degrees when you put it on. And I'm also now on a tiny boat you can't even stand up in. So I couldn't get warm. I couldn't sort of run up and down. I had no beach to run up and down. And I'll try and sort of do star jumps on deck. But that didn't really work, to be honest. So, no, it was, yeah. And I'd also lost all my body fat. I was super skinny. So, generally, there's just nothing quite like being cold, is there?
Right?
No. I hat off to you. That, for me, having been a swimmer, in fact, I was actually just swimming last night. I got back in the pool recently. But that 900 miles in the sea up the west coast of Scotland, I looked at the route that you took, and if someone had said to me, if I didn't know that a man had actually done it, I would have said, no, it can't be done. I don't think it can be done. Not in one go.
Trust me, many people thought they'd write me long emails telling me how it couldn't be done as well.
Yeah,
I got many of those. Yeah,
but you did it.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, it was. Yeah, they went very quiet though as soon as I finished.
As soon as you completed it.
I don't know. I'm fueled by naysayers, especially if you've done your research. I don't want to sort of promote willy-nilly going out there. You've got to
prepare.
Yeah,
you've got to prepare. You've got to look at. I always look at what are my game enders, I call them, the things that'll stop me from achieving it. And it'll be little things like, getting properly ill, as in bedridden ill, hospitalized, breaking a bone, drowning, not being fit enough, currents, tides, weather, equipment, support, nutrition. You got all these sort of things. And even after all of that, nothing suggested that swimming the length of Britain was impossible. Nothing. It was not going to be one counter tide. It wasn't going to be a big rip tide sucking me out to sea ever. It's going to be north-south, north-south tidal flow. Yeah, it was going to be cold. There were going to be days where I couldn't swim because of bad weather. But, none of this was going to stop me. But, yeah, for some reason, there was quite a few people online who really were going out their way. Someone actually tried to come and stop me as well in Scotland.
Were they worried for your life? Or?
In their boat. Yeah, in their boat. He was...
thought you were an immigrant.
Yeah, he thought I was an immigrant. So I basically had to change this in the book because they thought I'd get sued if I mentioned it. So he was in charge of an area, let's say. I can't be more specific than that, otherwise I get in trouble, apparently, according to my publisher. So he was in charge of a certain area, which involved a bit of water, and he wanted to come out in his boat and stop me from swimming this certain bit because he said I was going to die, and he didn't want me dying in his sort of area. And he physically wanted to come out on his boat. And he scared the life out of me, to be honest. So, this was like a week before I even arrived. Every day he's like, are you still going to do it? Are you still going to do it? I think you should skip it and start again after it, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's never going to happen, mate. There's no way I'm going to skip 1 meter of this. What's the point? Anyway, eventually, I worked with my skipper, Lou, who was amazing. And it was like, man, you swim this at slack tide, you're fine. Obviously, when the tide is at its full flood, anywhere is dangerous. But actually, at slack tide, the water's just still. And I landed up swimming this bit, which took about an hour, and it was one of the easiest swims I'd done. A seal was following me, and we're having a jaw in the water, And I'm just like, afterwards, I was like, man, you really, really were not very nice. You misguided in your information, and you're going to get those people. Some of them will give you useful advice. Some people are like, don't go down this gully because there is a big whirlpool. If you can go around another one, do it. If you do go down that gully, you have to do it at slack water, which you only get about 20 minutes of before the whirlpool starts. Obviously, there's those bits of information that are useful. But for someone just to blankly go, you can't do it, you're not going to do it, you're going to die, I thought was a bit short-sighted. And as it turns out, completely wrong.
Now, there's 2 other things I want to cover quickly. You cycled to the Alps, and according to the thing I read, you did it because it would be cheaper than flying.
Yeah, so every year it's my tradition between day after Boxing Day or the evening of Boxing Day and New Year, though that week, pretty much, I do a little mini adventure somewhere, anywhere. And I've done it for 5 years in a row now. And yeah, 1 year, and I just try and make it a little bit different. So all my mates were going skiing. I've banned myself from skiing and snowboarding because I just break stuff like... My ambition outweighs my skill, generally. So I just break. The last time I went skiing, I broke both my thumbs, my rib, broke a skis. And then when I went boarding before, I broke a snowboard in half. So I just was like, you know what? I'm just not going to ski or board or anything. Yeah, it's just not my thing, So anyway, all my mates were going, and then me and my mate Jez were like, well, should we cycle out? It'd be kind of fun. And we'll meet them there and, spend a night in the Alps and then probably catch a train back or something. I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then as just a throwaway comment, we're like, oh, should we see if we can do it cheaper than the flight? So we went on EasyJet or whatever, and it was 220 quid for a flight, I think. And we're like, okay, well, let's see if we can do it for cheaper than 220 quid. Actually, it turns out it was way, way easier than that. I think we spent like 100 quid and we ate out properly, so we had another £100 for like ale or whatever. So it was really easy. But the following year, I think, or might have been the year after that one, I decided to walk from my mum's house in Cheltenham to London to my friend's New Year's Eve party during the same period, and I tried to do that one cheaper than the train. So that was £48.50, and I had 5 days, which, if you will, it was about £8 a day budget.
That's tough
to live on in the UK. But actually, I soon worked out pasta, pesto, and a bit of chorizo. You could buy a day's worth of that for about £5, which left me with exactly about, I think, £2.95. It was £5 and some change. I think I had about £2.95 in coins at the end of each day's budget. And I'd go to a pub, and I'd genuinely do this. I'd go to the barman, and I'm like, may I have £2.95 worth of ale, please? And to be honest, most of the time he'd just give me a full pint anyway. So I was like, thanks, because it was about £3.15, you know.
Yeah.
Till I got nearer London, it was more like half pint. But yeah, so actually, you can survive. Honestly, you can survive in the UK on £5 a day if you're clever with where you camp, or rough sleep if you're on your own, as I like to call it. So, because technically, camping wild in England and Wales is illegal.
Yes,
So
yes, true.
All good up here, though. All good
you're
up
all
here.
fine in Scotland.
Now, in 2015, more recently, you ran Britain 1,011 miles in 44 days.
It was, yeah. That was 4 days slower than I was hoping, which annoyed me because I got injured twice and I got ill actually. Yeah, yeah. It was the third and final leg of the Lansing to John O'Groats triathlon, which, as I mentioned earlier, was done over years. I'd attempted it the year before, took a selfie and tripped on a rock and injured my knee.
Is that genuinely the reason that you injured yourself?
Well, I mean, all that hard work swimming the length of Britain, and I'm now just the selfie guy. Which is kind of,
Oh dear.
But yeah, so I had unfinished business. You know, running is probably my weakest. It's the thing I take the longest to get into. Like my cycle fitness comes back pretty quickly. Swimming fitness comes back because it's all soft tissue. All the hard tissue stuff takes much longer. So running in particular will take longer to get strong for. Yeah, so I just decided to have a bash. You know, tried it once, failed, wasn't going to give up, gave it a go a second time, and thankfully, I did it on that one.
Amazing.
So, apart from the secret project that you've got coming up, is there anything you can tell us that you've got planned in the future, or something you wish to do?
Oh, I've got a huge black book. You know, loads of people, loads of adventurers actually get annoyed about the what next question.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love the what next question. I think, you know, if you don't have an idea coming up, it's quite easy to slip back into comfort zone, you know. So I have loads of ideas. Yeah, loads. Whole little book. Every time I think of something, I just write in my little book, and I have a dedicated, so a tiny little bit like this, dedicate a page to that idea, and I just scribble down little things like when I think I might want to do it, you know, blah blah blah. How much savings I'll need to make, you know, how many less coffees I'll have to drink a week to save the money and all that jazz. And then it stays in the book. And most of them, quite a few of them I can do in years to come. There's a few that I probably need to think about doing in the next couple of years. I'm 35 now, getting better at some stuff. I'm getting a bit slower in other stuff. So what one can I talk about? I mean, running the length of Africa, I guess, is the one big one that I put out there years ago.
Wow.
But I've never quite managed to sort of commit to it.
That's serious.
Challenging in the actual physical, but also quite dangerous in some parts.
No, I don't think it's dangerous.
No?
I don't think people will care for a smelly runner. I think 99% of the world are friendly people. The media will just obviously sell more newspapers if they tell you about the 1%, you know. I think you'd be fine. I think yes, there are certain parts of Africa which are probably a little bit more risky and you want to avoid them. Not because I think you'll be a target. I think you may there's more chance of landing up in the wrong place at the wrong time. But other than that, I think you'd be fine. You know, Mark Beaumont just cycled it 41 days. You know, loads, Alistair Humphreys, you know, there's loads of people who've done it, and not one of them has ever said anything bad. So there's that one. I'm a bit young. I think that's probably the reason I haven't decided to do it yet. Is I'm a bit young. I'm 35. I could do that well into my 50s, really, truthfully, and probably still break the record. The record's 318 days at the minute.
Who holds that, Sean?
So you know what? He was a British male model in the 90s, and in 1998, I can't remember his name, but
and he
if
ran
you
the
Google
length of it.
length of Africa on foot record, I can't remember his name now, but he has it, and
you want to break it?
Yeah, I will break it. Yeah.
That's
It's just when it'd be quite nice if actually someone did it in the meantime to make it a little bit more difficult for me. So please do that.
Sorry, do you have a last question,
Though? No, not last question, but I just wanted for everyone that's listening, you have a few books out. You've got on my list 1, 2, 3, 4 books out, and you are writing one currently.
I'm writing number 5. Shall I be very professional and show you them?
Yes, you can. You can tell us what they are and where people can find them.
I wasn't joking about the whole pile of them in my.
So you have plenty for signing.
Yes, so I have a guidebook called World Cycling Stripped Bare, which is a really interesting cover, which I stole from Richard Branson's idea when he had a scantily clad lady on the back of his kitesurfing board. It was my friend's idea. I went to school with Monique. She said, "Why don't we do this idea? It'd be kind of fun." But anyway, truthfully, it's a bit outdated now. It's about how to do long distance cycle touring. It's just a guidebook. It is 4 years old, so it's a bit outdated if I'm being honest. But it certainly will sort of give you an idea of how you go from doing no cycling at all to being able to cycle 180, 200 miles a day and cycle around the world. So that's that one. Then there's my Land's End to John O'Groats cycle book. This is when I cycled Land's End to John O'Groats in 2008. And that's just a fun read, great for the toilet, that one.
Reading on it as opposed to in it?
I mean, the paper's quite soft. Probably my most proud book. This is the swim book. This is the one. I'm going to get that one, actually. That really that's on sort of list. Got me into. It got my confidence back, this one. In my physical ability. And it's an easy read. I'm not trying to be J.K. Rowling or Tolkien or whatever. It's just a simple, easy read, and it tells you exactly how I did it. And then the other one is my latest book. This is the Cycling Around the World race, which is part of the world's first ever bike race around the planet. My friend Mike Hall landed up winning that. Something happened to me in America, which kind of ruined my dreams, but you're going to have to read that if you want.
Read it to find out.
Yeah, you have to read it to find out. I've got a few signed copies here. So those are the 4 I've got at the minute. And I'm writing at the moment the third book about the length of Britain triathlon, the run. So they'll have all 3. And then I might actually, I'm half tempted to combine all 3 books into one massive fat book. I just kind of want a book that's so fat that no one buys it because it's too scary.
And that's why people always bought Lord of the Rings in 3 parts.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people listening to our podcast will know who you are, but equally there'll be some people who don't. So if they want to follow your goings-ons, where are you on social media, and what's your tagline so people can find you?
So I guess Instagram is the thing I use the most because I still feel visually creative from my photography days. So Conway_Sean, same on Twitter. Otherwise, search Sean Conway on Facebook. SeanConway.com is my website. Discovery Channel has a hub and a section on me, and you can download my shows on iTunes and Google Play. And my next show comes out 30th of August. So 30th.
Oh, soon. Very soon then.
Next Tuesday, so a week today, while we're recording this. So Tuesday the 30th. It's 3 nights in a row, 10 p.m. Discovery Channel, all about the world's longest triathlon. It's going to be... I'm really proud of this one. It was a really tough adventure. It's a really honest portrayal of how it went, all the highs, all the lows. And yeah, I can't wait to actually kind of share it finally with everyone after sort of, everyone following me online and on social media. So
looking forward to that.
Tune in 30th of August.
Series link it. Done.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, just before we leave you to get on with your day, you have an amazing beard, but there is a reason behind it.
Yeah, so 2013, I was swimming across the Irish Sea from Wales to Ireland because it was quicker than going up Wales, and I was just getting hit in the face by jellyfish all the time. Jellyfish just kept getting sort of like stuck to my face and tentacles going up my nose and everything. And it was after about a week of this happening where I had a bit of a beard. A really small one like your guys. Sort of, actually, it was probably just stubble, to be fair. And I realized the beard was stopping my face being stung by the actual jellyfish tentacles, because they weren't touching my skin. So from that day on, I was like, right, that's it. I'm just going to grow a massive beard to shield my face from jellyfish stings. And I kind of then found out it gives me superpowers. So
well, we all know that, right? Yeah. People with beards know that.
You guys are starting to feel it now. Yeah. Give it another year and you'll be right involved.
I think it's the ginger beard as well, because Byron seems to have more superpowers than me.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to embrace the ginger, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sean, it's been absolutely great having you on. I'm so thankful that you managed to find time. I know that people will most definitely be inspired by your stories, the things you've done, and the fact that you've just thought, if
you've not been inspired, you've got a problem.
Yeah, just screw it, just make it happen. And that's an attitude we love, and we absolutely embrace adventure and just making things happen, and that's what you've done.
Yeah, I want to end off with just saying, I was in a pretty desperate situation, and I took it to the extreme level. You don't have to do that. Alistair Humphreys obviously has a great philosophy on micro adventures. If you haven't looked up Al Humphreys, you've got to do that now. He famously says you may work from 9 to 5, but you've also got from 5 to 9. I say you divide your day into 3 sections of 8. 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep. Probably have less sleep, to be honest. 8 hours play, and we don't really make most of the 8 hours play bit. And if you're good at anything now, guys, there's the opportunity to go out there and actually have a pretty awesome existence on this planet and actually live on this planet, rather than just living in an outdated idea of just working to provide money to give yourself food and shelter. So go out there, follow your dreams, everyone, and send me a tweet when you're doing it, and I'd love to sort of follow it. So yeah, thanks very much.
Cheers, Sean. Thanks so much.
Cool, guys. Catch you later. Cheers. Yeah.
Sean Conway, what a guy.
Yep. I'm inspired.
I am. I think I might dust my bike off out of the garage and just start cycling.
I don't even know where my bike is. That wouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Inspiring story, inspiring guy. I'm intrigued to find out what his next adventure is going to be.
But it's going to be under the radar, his next one.
Yeah, he says it's going to be under the radar, but I'm sure he'll be putting out some snippets. As he said, his show comes out next week.
It is, and
I'm going to check it out.
All his details will be in the description. You can check out his website. You can also check out where to buy his books. I think, because when I had a look, they're all on Amazon. So if you want to get hold of them on Amazon, then you can get them on there. If not, email him through his website, and you can get a signed copy from him, because he said it during the show. So.
He did indeed.
We have Ivan Carter coming on in 2 weeks' time. This is going to be an absolutely incredible show. We've been waiting for months to get him on, due to the fact that he is such a busy man, and he is on the front line in Africa doing conservation efforts, and we talk all about it. It's
a pretty special podcast. It's going to be one of those shows where you really need to share that with people who don't understand, who don't already embrace the idea that to make wildlife conservation work, we need to look at multiple different ways of tackling the issue. Whether that be hunting or photographic safaris or just education. Ivan Carter hits the nail on the head. He's such an articulate man, and he has some brilliant views and opinions on the world.
And you can't argue away from it, because he is on the ground, the front line.
He's living it.
He is spending 200 days of the year in Africa doing conservation work, be it anti-poaching, dehorning rhino, conservation efforts everywhere. And you really do get into the nitty-gritty and the explanation behind hunting and conservation, photographic tours, and all these different things.
So it's going to be a great show. That's out in 2 weeks' time. We are not going to be announcing a winner for our prize this week because, as we said at the start of the show, it's running over 2 shows. So 2 weeks ago, we told you could win a Caldwell front shooting rest, which I held up at the front of the show for the YouTube listeners. It's a really tremendous prize, so we thought, right, we really need to have this over 2 shows, make sure that everyone has plenty of time to enter. And if
There's no excuses.
There is no. But I'm going to tell you again how you enter, so that there is no excuses. Unfortunately, you're going to have to be a Facebook user, but a load of people are, or you probably know somebody who does use Facebook. Find our Facebook page, Podcast Into the Wilderness. Find the pinned post and tag a friend in it. Simple as that. You'll all be entered and randomly selected.
Done and dusted. Now, we've got a few other little things to announce. If you go on thepacebrothers.com, which is our relatively new website, we now have opened a shop. We're taking pre-orders on our DVDs of Pace Brothers Into the Wilderness, which will be out in December this year, basically.
Yep.
We've also got T-shirts, mugs on pre-order, and the main reason they're on pre-order is we're not actually going to be here for the next month. We're going to be in Norway.
6 weeks. We're pretty much
6 weeks we're away. So after we come back, then we're going to start fulfilling orders. But pre-orders are being taken, and we're giving back to conservation. So
we are. 10% of all
10% of all profits will be
going
going straight back into conservation efforts around the world. We haven't decided quite yet where they're going. We're just going to wait a few months, and then we're going to
see where we think we want to put it.
In fact, we might even ask the listeners
we could do that.
Where it's going to go. But yeah, check out thepacebrothers.com. We've also got some new adventure hunting page as well if you want to come and join us.
Yes, we do. If you want to come and hunt with us, then you need to go and check that out. We will be posting it over social media actually in the next couple of weeks. We're giving people who listen to the show the opportunity to come and experience hunting the way that we like to experience it. So go to thepacebrothers.com, find the tab that talks that has wilderness hunting in it. That's going to give you a description, and at the bottom of there's a little form. Fill it in if you're interested. Hopefully in the next week or so we'll have some prices up there, but for now it's going to explain basically what we're going to do. It's going to be very, very limited because we want to keep the experience as pure and honest as we possibly can, so that you get to see basically what we do. So we're going to have 2 hunts this season in Scotland, one probably this side of the new year and one in the start of 2017, for 2 people on each hunt. So it's pretty limited. We're not quite sure how we're going to end up selecting people because we've already had quite a few people contact us who are interested. But once we have all of the full details, we'll send it out to everyone and see who comes
I guess
back.
Once people figure out dates and stuff
like
dates
that,
it will start. It'll basically determine who's coming. Now, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We are getting quite a large number of Instagram followers now. So if you are into Instagram, which I think is an absolutely brilliant platform, it's just pictures. That's all it is. And we enjoy putting pictures up of what we're doing. So yeah, check us out on Instagram as well. And thepacebrothers.com. Subscribe to the show. Everyone subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast.
Do it. Share it with a friend.
Yep, it is on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and it also on YouTube as well. And we give away prizes every 2 weeks. And keep leaving reviews because we've just got another review yesterday. And if you look at all of the rest of the hunting, conservation kind of podcasts, we've got more reviews than most of them.
It's quite staggering. So
and to the person that gave us 1 star, really 1 star.
I think that might have been somebody who was
just didn't like us.
Anti-hunter.
Maybe
didn't like us.
Really, but the thing is, if you don't like the show, maybe it's worth a 2, but a 1 star.
I don't know. Do you think it's worth our listeners? Do you think it's worth more than 1 star? I hope so. Judging by the other 30-odd people that have given it 5 stars, I think most people probably agree.
I could understand if it was 1 star and they were paying for it.
Did they leave a comment?
No, it was just a star.
Just a 1-star
review.
Just
a 1-star rating.
At least if you're going to 1-star it, tell
us
why
the
we're
reason
rubbish.
why we're rubbish. Yeah, I would prefer that if I knew why I was rubbish.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody who tunes in every 2 weeks. And if you're a new listener, welcome. Go back and check out our back catalogue.
There's loads of them, and we know that we've been getting loads of new listeners because we've just broken our record month again.
Yes, we have.
About 3 months in a row now has been record months.
Yes.
So all the new listeners, go and check out the previous, it'll almost be 30 shows.
Yeah, there's plenty to choose from.
Hours and hours of great content to listen to. And we have a discount code for people that drink coffee. If you want 17% off Black Rifle Coffee, then just use the promo PACE Bros, PACEBROS. Capitals, done. 17% off. Get your coffee. We drink it anyway. We've drunk Black Rifle Coffee for months and months, and the guys there have given us a discount code. So
yeah, they have. So you just got to visit their website, and you can use our discount code, and that will get you 17% off, which is really great because it means that you can bring it into the UK, and it's basically the same price as buying it in the States, which is cool. Don't forget that this podcast is only made possible by the support of our sponsor, the Scottish Association for Country Sports. Go check them out on Facebook. They have daily updates on the goings-on in the countryside, and it is a brilliant way to keep up to date with the really important issues. And we try and bring you some of those as and when they come up as well.
Yep. Thanks for listening.